August the 30th. Counselor Wolverton,
Here.
Counselor Gear,
We appreciate you.
Counselor Sims, Counselor Nels,
Here.
and Counselor Harden.
Here.
Okay, all present. You have a quorum, one via Zoom.
All right. Do I have a motion to dispense reading and approval of minutes from August 16th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Gear, second by Mr. Harden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, 5-0. So we've got old business, 01/02/20, request for update on Green Springs revitalization. Berkeley Squires, and I know we have Clark Bailey here to kind of speak to some questions from the last couple of weeks too.
Berkeley's on the phone.
Okay. Well, I think Clark, most of the questions I think you can answer, so,
He's waiting at me to come up.
of course.
You've been
How are y'all?
Berkeleyed.
All right, how are you?
Good.
Good. So I know Counselor Sims had some questions. I've had a few, but I think he'll probably end up covering
Sure.
pretty much everything, so.
Thanks, Clark, for coming and, providing the opportunity to kind of discuss some things through. And I know y'all have had some meetings recently with business owners and other stakeholders along the corridor, so really appreciative to y'all for that. One of the things that keeps coming up is about the access to certain businesses and basically how with the median now, I'm just going to talk through like a situation. It's probably the best way to do it. So if you're northbound on Green Springs between, say, Raleigh and Oxmoor, and you were trying to get to the Pawpaw Patch, then basically you can't turn left because the median's there. So a lot of people U-turn at that intersection, and when we were talking about that during committee meeting, it was brought up that U-turns would be prohibited. But it seems like the natural way to access that location now. So I was just trying to talk through traffic flow considerations going forward, and to make sure we're still giving access to all of the properties along the corridor, and just wanted to see if there's anything that kind of describes a traffic flow pattern or plan, and just get additional feedback, because there's also some other similar situations, say southbound, if you're trying to get at Raleigh and you need to turn left, you have to kind of U-turn there. Or you could actually, maybe once it's finished, go up further, like to the next street, turn around mid-block, because I think there's a cut in there. And so just want to get your feedback on some considerations and the plan.
Yeah. So first thing, U-turns will not be prohibited. They actually work really well with the protected left turn signal. So for the Pawpaw Patch example, you would pull into the inside left turn lane, wait for your green arrow, and make your U-turn. And so those are designed to accommodate all passenger vehicles, SUVs. So that should be pretty, that's a different method than you went in before without the median, but that should work fairly well. If you're uncomfortable with the U-turn, if I'm coming from the neighborhood, like from my house, I would just reroute, come a different way. Instead of coming out of the neighborhood on Carr, I may come out Old Columbiana and Palisades area. So.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Further question with that, like if you're coming out of Publix and you want to get to the gas station,
Mm-hmm.
same thing then.
Yeah.
You'll get over in that far light and turn. Will there be anything that encourages folks to, or I guess directs them that it's okay to come around that and do a U-turn, kind of like what we see on 280 now, where a lot of, there are lanes for U-turn?
I think
Yep.
Berkeley and I discussed maybe at the last meeting, that we can put up signage. Is that correct? To allow permit the U-turns, and so
Yeah, I
people are
mean,
aware.
we typically.
Most people would adapt to what's going to be there.
Well, if you're at Publix and you want to go to the gas station, there's like no adaptation. You just need, you either keep going down the road or you do a U-turn. And my question is, just, will we be able to say U-turns are okay?
So in the state of Alabama, U-turns are allowed unless they're prohibited.
Okay,
So they're always allowed,
Okay.
unless you see the no U-turn
unless you see
sign.
the sign.
So, 280 is a very different case, with a lot more traffic and some actual specific dedicated U-turns,
Yeah.
which is why you see them striped, signed, and even signalized
It
differently.
won't be that way.
And so it won't be the same as that. Yeah, and so, I mean, the gas station example, you could turn left on Oxmoor, and then I guess you're turning left across 3 or 4 lanes. That's not as good. I'd rather U-turn,
Yeah.
make the U-turn and turn right.
Okay.
Something else popped up. Oh, I've seen some questions about the turn lanes. I guess this is the disclaimer, pardon our progress, please. Please, we're working really hard. Our contractor is, Dunn's doing a great job, moving very quickly. They're ahead of schedule. The entire stretch will be resurfaced. So all the asphalt will be milled, it'll be repaved and restriped. Part of what's happening with the restriping is lanes are not going to be exactly where they are today. And so with the existing striping down there, things look kind of goofy. I get that, but we will have the same number of turn lanes as we do today. It'll also, the actual driving lanes will be narrowed a little bit to be more context sensitive to the actual nature of the road. This is not an interstate. And then we'll be striping in bike lanes with a buffer there. So I think it's anything else.
No, you're absolutely, those are great additions, because there's definitely questions about,
Yeah.
Is there 1 lane or 2 on the left at Oxmoor and Green Springs? So thanks for referencing that, and definitely, appreciate the work that went into plan, and obviously, once it's constructed, it'll be much different than it is now as far as ease of navigation and actually, functionality, obviously, as well. When you're talking about the medians and some of the breaks, like to take that left into Publix now, if you're going southbound on Green Springs, there was some reference to signage. Is there any temporary signage either on the pavement itself or somehow in the median that can kind of indicate to the motorist, what the intent of that lane is as far as who is to use it, whether it's the northbound or the southbound traffic?
It's not currently in the plan to have that put in, but it's something we can bring up at our weekly meetings I look at. Another thing I thought of, we are also updating all the traffic signals and timings along the corridor. And so those will reflect the geometric changes, turn lanes, upgrading the vehicle detectors so that the signals operate a little snappier. You won't be sitting and waiting for empty turn lanes to turn, things like that. So that'll be another part of it towards the end where things start flowing a lot better and moving.
In respect to signals too, one thing I was thinking about just for additional consideration, when you're talking about those U-turns there at the gas station, if you're U-turning on Green Springs, that one potential concern could be the eastbound traffic on Oxmoor if they're taking that right and someone's U-turning. So possibly consideration of a green turn arrow when it's safe to turn right, or some type of signal where basically people on Oxmoor eastbound don't turn right unless they kind of have a signal and aren't looking for the U-turn, basically. Does that make sense?
We don't have a plan for a green right indication. But it would still allow right on red. Part of the green right indication would cause conflict with pedestrians. But yeah, I mean, you're reducing, every turning movement has conflicts, and so the signalized U-turn, you're taking away the T-bone of a through vehicle by giving them the protected signal, but you still have that negotiation with the right turner. So technically, the left turn would have, or the U-turn would have the right of way, and that right turn should be yielding.
I think one other quick question, just in regards to the signaling as well. Northbound on Green Springs at Raleigh, it's always been a left turn arrow and then it's off And then, I've heard people complain for years about it being red and there's no traffic coming the other way. Is that changing at all? Is that going to become a flashing yellow, proceed, as you're allowed if there's no oncoming traffic southbound?
Yeah, so we are changing that from protected only left turn to a protected permissive. So
Okay.
you'll be able to turn left on the green. Yeah.
Okay. And then it'll flash yellow when southbound turns green?
I think we're putting in the flashing yellow arrow, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. One other quick question, and I don't know, Berkeley, if you're aware of this. So when there was an accident several years ago, or 2 years ago probably now, at prom, and that pole at Lake Shore and Green Springs was hit, it was replaced. There's the trigger, the indicator for the crosswalk at that intersection has never been fixed. So like there's a button, if you're coming,
I talked to Randy and that's how
that was what my question was gonna be, is who's in control of that at this point? Okay.
they paid that.
And I didn't know if that had come up since we were doing this whole section of road and.
No, but I believe that Randy would have jurisdiction to repair that. So. And they'll be
Yeah.
doing upgrades at that intersection as part of.
And I don't think they ever actually
the DDI.
replaced it, or they never wired it into the new pole, so, okay.
That, as Mark said, I think that's all in part of the Virgin Diamond
Yeah.
will be included in that part, that section right there, so a lot of that will be redone at that point in time.
Okay. All right. Julie, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Anybody else? And Berkeley, just rough timeline. I did get asked that this week, just how much, or maybe Clark, you can speak to it. Do we know kind of, I know we're filling dirts in some of the areas along the median, just approximately how we
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like
I don't
looking.
have a good grasp on total completion, and I think the goal is to pave in this paving season though, before it gets cold.
I mean, the paving and stuff will be the easiest part. I mean, finishing up, getting all the landscaping and all situated and set in, because we don't want to plant early. We're looking probably mid-late September.
Sure.
Planting. And so once that gets done, I think they've still got a few little cuts and maybe some concrete that they've got to do, but after that, pretty much we'll start beginning to mill and pave and go from there, so.
And that's gonna run from Lake Shore all the way up to Oxmoor, or no?
We'll only begin there at,
Raleigh.
Lake Shore to Broadway, or Lake Shore to Raleigh's in the connector part.
Okay.
There's gotta be some redesign of the lane. That one will go from Raleigh to the, Fuller Decor where we've ended currently right now.
Oxmoor, yeah.
And then we will
Pass
also
off.
grab the little, section that's to the right off of Green Springs where I don't know what that where the little taco trucks always parked in the.
Yeah.
Palisades, going towards Palisades.
Right.
That's ours, so we're gonna grab that in because it's in pretty rough shape up there.
Sure.
So we've included it in paving and striping the section of that.
Okay. So you're starting south and moving north?
Yes,
with the paving?
that's the plan.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
One more quick question. I know during the mayor's presentation, he referenced the work to be done for the connection to Lakeshore Estates. And is the design work for that underway or complete? I know there were some considerations along Griffin right there and that it was going to be tougher in design.
Yeah, we've done some conceptual design, and I think.
That's a total different, that'll have to be designed up. I mean, we've gone through conceptually, but that's a total different project. It'll have to be bid and all that. It's not included in the Green Springs phase one, basically phase two.
I think there were some logistics too on the eastbound side of Lake Shore, since there's not anything over there too.
We've got to get a little bit of, right away approved from AlDOT on a certain section of that sidewalk that'll come down through on Lake Shore.
I didn't know if there was an update on that.
Well, yeah, sorry. I'd say that I think there's plenty of people in the city that would like to see sidewalks somewhere else instead of on two sides of a road. I understand it's a big road, but, you know, that was also a discussion at one point too, is, you know, are we gonna just looking at the money and how much is it gonna cost, and is that something that we're gonna foot the bill on before we go somewhere else with it?
Sure. I mean, and right now, though, that quadrant of that intersection, those people in Lakeshore Estates can't come up to Green Springs, and they cannot cross to the Lakeshore Trail right now. So, with access on Lakeshore or Green Springs. So it is an important connection, but, you know, it's obviously not there
Yeah,
yet.
maybe I'm misunderstanding. At what point at Lakeshore Estates are you talking?
So when you take a left off of Green Springs onto Lake Shore, that entire neighborhood to your left, they have no connection whatsoever.
It's like the Eastwood Drive, Woodmont,
Woodmont, all up in there.
yeah.
So you're going southbound on Lake Shore, or on Green Springs, and you turn left towards the soccer fields?
Yes, yeah,
Look
like,
up to your left.
Lucerne.
yeah, all those houses, Lucerne, all those houses, and they don't
They have no connection whatsoever.
at all.
Gotcha.
That's what this is.
I thought you were referencing sidewalk, yeah, sorry, further up, on the opposite side, from Lake Shore up to Broadway. Okay, all right. So we'll go ahead and carry this over without objection. And then we have a few new business items. 0908, thank you, Clark in Berkeley. New business 090821, request for permission to work in the city right away at 186 Oxmoor Road. The applicant couldn't be here tonight, so we were going to carry this over. And he also has another one on here, 100821, request for permission to work in the city right away to replace trees at 201 East Linwood. And I know he talked to Mr. Councilor Gwaltney about this, but he's got some drawings, correct? You don't have anything?
I probably have access to them. He sent them to me at one point. However, it's pretty straightforward. There are currently, I think, 4 to 6 right-of-way trees between the sidewalk and the curb that are in various states of decay or death. He's had an arborist review them and said that I think all of them need to be removed and replaced, and he's willing to remove and replant them at his own expense, simply for approval. So he's going back with, I think, 4 trees instead of 6.
Okay.
That's the gist of what I know.
And I'm assuming he's talked to somebody in the city about which trees and
He is, I
species and all
believe,
that?
I think he spoke with you when you guys looked at the drainage issue about the trees, is what I was told.
Yeah, so I met with him on site at his house, and we talked about the drainage issues, and this was 4 months ago.
Sure.
We talked about the trees, but I haven't heard anything about the trees until tonight.
Okay.
So I think our process would be for him to, I guess, assuming you would approve this, he would get with Wyatt and the arborist
Okay.
and make sure that,
And since he's got this other item on the agenda, we can just carry this over and we can just make sure that's all clear next
do you know what he's
committee.
proposing, Councilor
Yeah,
Gwaltney?
I'm trying to find it. It says it on this folder he sent. It was mostly stormwater stuff that he sent me, but. They are one of the, he did say that he had gone through the current tree ordinance and picked a right-of-way tree that was indigenous and would be amenable to not destroying the sidewalks.
Actually,
So-
I think he said Bosque Elm was one that
That's
he
it.
mentioned.
It was some
Yeah.
sort of elm. So,
Okay.
But, I'd assume we
What-
just need to double check and make sure that's
Yeah.
in the list. So,
Okay, good.
all right, we'll go ahead and carry that over as well. Thank you. 110821, request for permission to work in the city right away and extend the road to the east at 913 Frisco Street.
So you carried over a 908 when I sent that out.
And we carried over 090821 and 100821.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna let Chase Fisher
Sure.
to this, but I have handouts if anybody wants. Sure.
Yeah, I'm Chase Fisher. I live in Montgomery currently. Started working about 3 months ago in Bessemer doing workforce housing over there with Brian Jatina. So that's kind of what is bringing me to Birmingham and to Homewood. Found these 3 lots kind of hiding in the woods near Homewood Middle. So worked out an agreement with the owner and planning to extend the road there. There is a little error that I made there at the top of how far we're going to be extending it. It's actually going to be 160 to 180. Sorry, 180 to 200. So that's how it's 3 60-foot wide lots, and then there's approximately 10 to 20 feet from the current end of Frisco Street to that point. So giving a little extra room there. There's no existing curb and gutter on that portion of Frisco Street, so the extension would match the existing. There's not room there for a hammerhead for the fire department, so the houses will have to be sprinkled per code. I've already talked to Chief Hill about that. There is existing water and sewer all the way down the street and across to Gray Street, surprisingly. And there will be some tree removal required to extend the road, and then there's potentially some topographic challenges there as well. There's kind of a little cliff there. So there's 3 existing 60 by 120 lots of record. The survey and civil engineering will start in the next couple of weeks, and then we will also have a deed restriction on each of the lots where the base floor area of the homes will not exceed 2,400 square feet as the base floor area, and then any trees that are above 6-inch caliber that are removed on the lots during construction will be replaced 1-to-1 on the lot. So that was actually the owner's preference in selling it. So I'm
Good
happy to
question.
answer any questions.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, so is it Edgeview Avenue that's being, the request to extend? Is that the road that we're talking about?
There are some maps refer to it as Edgeview. The actual street sign on the street is Frisco Street, and that is what it's known by for the county and city records.
So, and maybe this is a better way to describe it. Is the street right before you turn up to go to the middle school?
It is.
Okay. So it's almost like you're turning to go to the middle school, but it's a sharper turn.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood what we were talking about.
I think.
Yeah, that's the best description of all.
Yeah, I think Kale included a photo there on that very last slide that shows that turn up.
On the last sheet, the bottom picture is the street that says dead end.
I have a couple of questions. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to ask if there's another packet.
Another one of these?
Yeah, because I was trying to see, you mentioned this in the beginning, but how far are you wanting to extend the street?
So it'll be 180 feet is kind of the minimum to get at the end of the 3 lots, but I think that there's probably about 10 to 20 feet. You can see it in either one of those photos where the house lot ends or where the street ends, like right there where the car is parked, and then where the lots actually pick up. So there's some additional room there to be determined kind of exactly what that is.
Is it, help me understand, is this, I noticed what you're saying, I mean, different people have different addresses, depends on, and that,
Sure.
and there's kind of a, I don't know if that's an alley behind there, is that what you're doing? There's an alley that doesn't go all the way to Mecca.
So this is actually a dedicated street, and then on this side of the lots, there is a dedicated alley there as well, which is unopened, and this portion of the street was unopened as well. So there's currently 3 houses on Frisco on this portion of it, kind of as you're coming up, and then it just stops, and there's a little basketball goal there. So the street is dedicated going further down, but it's totally overgrown.
Quick, can I ask a question? Sure. Is looking at the tax map, I see the 3 parcels further down, but they appear to be tied. There's one next to 913, which appears to be the house to the left of the green block there. There we go. So there, it's highlighted here.
Yep.
That's
Good.
actually already subdivided to the tax
It is.
record?
So
Okay.
because it's a common ownership, the county will just lump it all together with one.
Okay.
But it never was replatted, so it is 3 existing lots of record.
This shows 912 Irving.
Right, which is just an incorrect address of that. It was originally connected to the house at 912, and the owner of these lots grew up in that home. But they didn't transfer whenever that house was sold all through the years.
Mr. Smith, I've never heard of the county just lumping 3 parcels together that,
It's a zoning lot. They do it so if Chase owns all 3 lots, then he can say, just send me one tax bill.
so it will actually remove the parcel boundaries and they all become one dedicated parcel because there's only one parcel ID on the tax map.
Right, it's a zoning lot, and then so.
Okay.
But he can go back to the tax assessor.
And split it out.
And say,
Okay.
now you send me 3 bills on each.
I got you.
Which we will
That's
do.
why it looked confusing
It's
in
a
here.
platted lot, yeah.
But
Okay.
you're
Thank
gonna
you.
have to go through subdivision to subdivide this one lot.
I won't. It said they actually are already subdivided legally.
Okay, that's why, that's why. Mine's all based on tax. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was catching too. Thank you.
When you talk, hi, hello. When you talk about the issues with development, and you talked about a cliff, what other environmental issues? Have environmental issues been considered here? Are there any watershed issues? I mean, I'm assuming there are reasons that this land has not been developed up to this point. So I'm just wondering if we're giving any environmental considerations to the development.
Yeah, I think in particular, the owners had people approach her several times over the years about buying the lots. And I think due to life circumstances, she wasn't ready. And then also nobody was willing to take the environmental considerations that she wanted in it into account, which I was. So that's kind of, like we're going over and above any of the tree
Related to the
ordinances
trees.
requirements or anything like that.
Okay.
And we'll have topographic challenges in building, but the folks we've had looked at it so far don't think that those will not be able to be overcome. As far as other environmental issues, I can't speak to that.
There's no rock that you'll have to get through, or,
I think that is a possibility in the right of way. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but just visually, there's a section, and I don't know exactly, it may be outside of the right of way and actually on the Homewood Middle property, or it may be in the right of way. It's not like it's
the
like a
hillside
small
does go
outcrop.
pretty much straight up to the backside of the middle school.
Right.
There'll be, and the creek doesn't run that far down, does it?
Right.
Okay.
I've got a question for Berkeley. How about garbage? If that street gets opened up?
We'll have to review, because right now, the run will go up in there draft, but they pull them out, but we're having to bring more homes, that's extended out, but I'll have to turn around, on fire department, so we don't access it, so, there's no way to get in there and turn around.
And I have a question too. If you're extending the road, does that mean you're going to be responsible for the maintenance of that road? Or is your intention to try to dedicate that to the city? What's your thought process?
I believe that once we build it, which we're obviously paying for, that it would then be dedicated to the city.
So you're gonna build.
But
parts
you-
back.
It is the city's currently, it's the city
Okay,
property,
so-
he's just building the road.
He's just taking the road. So eventually it would become our responsibility to maintain it. Okay.
But if you want to help pay to extend it, I'm happy to
No,
extend
I'm
it.
happy for you to do that.
But it'll be built according to the city specifications? Okay.
And so really, everybody's gonna, in a sense, front on Edgeview.
No.
We'll call that Edgeview. You'll front on there, but you'll really access all the properties from the back.
No,
Am
so
I-
maybe back here for this one. So we'll access it from the front. Even though there is an alley in the back, it is not opened. And in particular, one of the properties coming off of St. Charles has built a very nice outdoor living area right on top of the alley. So, our intention is not to shake all that up and attempt to get used to the alley, but you never know. It is dedicated.
One question, this may be best directed to Kale. the zoning currently, just thinking about development going forward, I just tried to look on this awesome new tool you just put online, and it looks like it's NPD. Is that correct? Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
I'll make a motion to allow, I don't know,
Chase Fisher.
Chase Fisher to work in the right of way and extend the road to the city standards. And I don't know if he needs to sign a.
I think he needs an indemnification.
He will have
agreement.
to sign,
Indemnification.
yes.
We'll have to get you, our city attorney's not here today, but we'll have to get you an indemnification agreement.
Okay.
Based
You can
on
write your
him
email address
executing
down.
an indemnification agreement.
All right, motion by Counselor Harden,
Just for further discussion, I'm trying, and excuse me on this, because I know we've had some conversations previously when we've looked at improvements to the alley and about long-term improvements and maintenance requirements. So I'm just wondering if anyone can speak to if there's any, if this is something that's typical business that we've done in the past and we accept maintenance?
I couldn't understand the last thing you said, I'm sorry.
If we,
Typical to extend the alley that we accept maintenance going forward.
It depends on the road, is my experience, and Walter, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've done it more than I have, but if the road is already sort of dedicated like this one, it is traditional that we accept the maintenance. If they are creating a new road that is not on any map, that's a different situation.
great, thank you. I will second Counselor Harden's motion.
All right, motion by Counselor Harden, second by Counselor Sims. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that will go out to council at the next meeting for a full council vote.
Thank you.
And with that, we stand adjourned.